The duel that changed everything. The sky above the alien arena burned red like fire. Thousands of aliens filled the stone seats, cheering loudly. Their voices echoed through the huge valley. In the center of the arena stood a human, alone. His name was Darren Cole, a soldier from Earth. He didn't come here to fight. He came to talk peace, but now he was holding a glowing alien weapon, facing the most feared warrior in the galaxy, Warlord Varktal. Varktal stood tall with heavy armor and 4 glowing eyes. His skin was dark blue like storm clouds. He had ruled the alien planet Zithar for 20 years. He had crushed rebellions, conquered moons, and now he wanted to crush Darren. Darren didn't move. His heart pounded like a drum. Sweat rolled down his neck. He didn't understand all the alien customs, but one thing was clear: this was no friendly match. The crowd went silent as a voice echoed across the arena. Let the sacred duel begin. Varktal charged forward like a beast. His blade hissed with strange energy. Darren barely had time to dodge. The ground cracked under the force of the Warlord's strike. The fight began. Darren moved quickly, using his speed and instincts. He had trained on Earth. But this was something else. Varktal fought like a storm, heavy, fast, and deadly. Darren rolled, ducked, and struck when he could. Every time their blades clashed, light burst into the air. The crowd cheered with every blow. Alien eyes watched the human closely. No one believed he could win, not even Darren himself. But then, something changed. Varktal laughed too early. He swung too wide, and Darren saw an opening. He stepped in, spun under the Warlord's arm, and drove his blade deep into Varktal's side. The arena froze. Varktal dropped his sword and fell to his knees. His 4 eyes looked at Darren in shock. And then he collapsed. Silence. Then, slowly, the alien guard stepped forward. Darren raised his weapon, ready for another fight. But they didn't attack. Instead, they knelt before him. One of the guards, a tall female alien with silver skin, spoke in a loud voice. By the ancient law of Zithar, the one who defeats the ruler must take his place, and his 3 wives. Darren blinked. What? The crowd began chanting his name. Darren, Darren, Darren. He looked around, confused and sweating. I didn't come here to become king, he whispered. The female guard stepped closer. It is the law. You now rule Zithar. And you must accept the responsibility, including the royal bond. Royal bond? Darren asked. But before she answered, the gates opened. 3 alien women stepped into the arena. They were different from each other. The first had sharp golden eyes and walked like a queen. Her name was Celira. Her expression was cold, and she didn't bow. She looked at Darren like he was a mistake. The second woman had deep green skin and a calm face. Her name was Naeli. She said nothing. She just stared at him, with strange curiosity in her eyes. The third was younger, with bright silver hair and nervous steps. Her name was Torba. She smiled, but her hands trembled. She looked more afraid than him. They stood in a line, silent. Darren looked at them. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to feel. How could a single fight turn into a marriage? Then a female guard handed him a scroll. If you refuse the bond, she said, Zithar may fall into civil war. The people will not accept weakness. Darren stared at the scroll. His hands shook. He had won a fight. But now he was trapped in something far more dangerous than war: alien politics, culture, and love. Behind him, Varktal's body was taken away. In front of him, the 3 wives waited. And high above, the alien moon glowed, as if watching what Darren would do next. The 3 wives. Darren stood in the royal chamber of Zithar's capital palace, still in the clothes he had fought in. They smelled of sweat, dust, and fear. His hands were sore. His mind was spinning. He had won a duel to stop a war. Instead, he became king. And now 3 alien women stood before him, all with eyes full of secrets. The room was quiet. Only the soft hum of the crystal walls made any sound. Outside, a celebration had already begun. Alien drums and strange music echoed in the distance. The people thought they had a new leader, but Darren didn't feel like one. A silver-skinned advisor named Vernus stood beside him, holding a data tablet. He was the royal scribe, and his voice was soft but firm. "According to law, my lord," Vernus said, "you must begin the bonding process within 3 moons. Refusal will be seen as insult. Zithar may fall into chaos again." Darren sighed. "They're not objects. They're people." "Yes," Vernus agreed. "But on this planet, marriage is not just a bond of love. It is power, unity, control. The people expect it." Darren turned to face the 3 women. Each stood tall in front of him, wrapped in long flowing robes of glowing fabric, but their eyes said everything. Celira, the first wife. Celira stepped forward first. She didn't bow. Her posture was perfect, her chin high. Her golden eyes pierced through him like blades. "I don't want you," she said coldly. "You are not strong. You are not worthy." Darren blinked. "I didn't ask for any of this." She smirked. "And yet, here you are, holding the throne that should have been mine." Vernus leaned closer and whispered, "Celira is from the warrior clans. She was chosen for her bloodline, not her heart. She expected to rule after Varktal's death." Celira narrowed her eyes. "If you think I will bow to you, human, you are mistaken. I will not love you. I will not serve you." Then she stepped back in silence. Naeli, the second wife. The second woman moved like mist. Her eyes were soft, but unreadable. She had long dark green hair and skin that shimmered like leaves in sunlight. She said nothing at first. She simply stared at Darren, almost like she could read his thoughts. "Do you speak?" Darren asked gently. Naeli tilted her head. "Words are not always needed." Vernus whispered, "Naeli is a mind reader. Her species communicates through energy and emotion. She has seen death too many times." Darren took a careful step closer. "You're not afraid of me." Naeli smiled faintly. "You are strange, but not cruel. That is enough. For now." Then she turned and walked toward a window, staring out at the glowing moon. Her thoughts were her own again. Torva, the third wife. Last came Torva. She was smaller, younger, and clearly nervous. She looked around the chamber like she didn't belong. When she finally looked at Darren, her voice was quiet. "I don't want to be here," she said. "I was taken from my home." Darren's heart sank. "Taken." "She is from the Crystal Tribes," Vernus explained. "Her people offered her to avoid war. She is a peace gift." Darren felt sick. So she was traded like a prize. Torva looked up at him. Her silver hair fell over her face. "Please," she whispered, "don't hurt me." Darren stepped back, shocked. "I won't." She looked surprised. Her eyes welled up with tears, but she quickly turned and faced the wall, hiding her face. The shadow in the palace. Later that night, Darren sat alone in his room. A large alien chair held his tired body. His thoughts were heavy. He didn't want power. He didn't want forced wives. He just wanted to protect Earth. But now he was deep inside another world's laws, and each woman was part of a mystery. A soft knock came at his door. Naeli entered silently. Her presence felt calm, but serious. "There is danger," she said. "You must listen." Darren stood up quickly. "What do you mean?" She walked closer, her eyes glowing faintly. "You defeated Varktal in battle, but you did not defeat his plans." "What plans?" "He was preparing to invade Earth," she whispered. "He believed humans were a threat to his rule. There is more. Something hidden under the palace. A secret chamber. He met with someone there, almost every night. Darren's breath caught. Do you know who? She looked down. No. But I fear it was one of us. Darren froze. One of you. The wives. Naily nodded. You must find out who. Before it's too late. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. Guards shouted. Torva's voice screamed. Darren ran toward the sound. The war might be over. But the real danger had just begun. Secrets beneath the throne. Darren ran down the glowing hallway, boots pounding against smooth crystal floors. Alien guards shouted from every corner. The palace was no longer peaceful. Something had gone terribly wrong. He reached the main chamber and stopped. The guards stood in a half-circle, their weapons drawn. Torva sat on the floor, her silver robe torn. Her eyes were wide with fear. Her hands were shaking. One of the guards held a dark, broken object, something that looked like a strange black cube. What happened? Darren demanded. One guard stepped forward. She was caught sneaking into the royal vault, my lord. I didn't steal anything. Torva shouted. I just heard a sound. I followed it, and that thing rolled out. Darren looked at the cube. It buzzed faintly with red light. Naily appeared behind him and spoke softly. That is Zitharian tech. It's used to record secret meetings. Vernus arrived seconds later and took the cube. He tapped its side, and a hollow projection rose into the air. Everyone fell silent. The secret recording. The image showed Warlord Varktal sitting in a hidden underground room. Shadows danced around him. Across the table sat a hooded figure, someone tall, wearing the royal cloak. Varktal's voice echoed from the cube. If I fall, you must continue the plan. Earth must burn. They are weak now. Use the human's trust. Poison him from inside. The hooded figure nodded but said nothing. The voice was never revealed. Only silence. Then the recording stopped. Gasps filled the hall. Darren looked at the cube, his jaw tight. Varktal had a backup plan, and someone close, someone inside this very palace, was going to carry it out. Vernus whispered. This was hidden below the throne chamber. Few knew it existed. Darren's eyes went to the three women. All had reason to hide. All had reason to lie. But which one had betrayed him? The hidden passage. Later that night, Darren followed Vernus deep under the palace. Behind the royal throne, they found a stone slab with old alien symbols. Vernus pressed the symbols in a pattern. With a loud hiss, the wall opened. A cold passage stretched ahead, lit only by faint blue crystals. This was Varktal's private corridor, Vernus said. No servant or guard ever entered. They walked in silence. At the end of the tunnel, they found a strange room, half lab, half prison. Inside were charts of Earth, human DNA samples, and lists of names. One scroll caught Darren's eye. It was written in two languages, Zitharian and English. At the top it said, Breeding Candidates for Cross-Species Survival Project. Darren felt a chill run down his spine. Salira's wrath. When he returned to the upper levels, Salira was waiting in his chamber. Her arms were crossed. Her golden eyes burned. You think one of us betrayed you, she said, voice sharp. Darren didn't answer. You should know something, she continued. Varktal promised me power. He said once Earth was taken, I would rule beside him. But he lied, just like you are lying now. Darren stepped closer. Then tell me the truth. She looked away. I hated him, but I did not kill him. I was waiting for the right time. Why didn't you leave? Salira laughed coldly. Leave? This is Zithar. A wife is bound by blood oath. If I ran, my tribe would be hunted and killed. Darren's heart softened. Behind her strength was fear, fear of losing her people. Still, he couldn't fully trust her. Not yet. Naily's warning. That night, Naily visited Darren again. She sat beside him in silence. He asked, "What do you see when you look at me?" She replied, "A man lost in a foreign world, but with a heart that burns bright." He looked at her. "You said someone might betray me." "Yes," she said, "and they will. Soon." She reached out and touched his forehead lightly. A strange image entered his mind, a vision of a large chamber filled with burning crystals, and a voice whispering in the dark, "He must not leave alive." Darren gasped and pulled back. What was that? "Something coming," Nyla said. "Something buried and waking." Torva's fear. The next day, Darren found Torva crying in the palace garden. She sat by a glowing fountain, her knees hugged to her chest. "Why were you in the vault?" he asked gently. "I heard footsteps," she said. "At night. I thought it was a ghost." "Did you see who it was?" "No," she whispered. "But I felt cold, like someone evil had walked past me. I wanted to be brave. I wanted to find out, but I got scared." Darren knelt beside her. "It's okay. You don't have to be brave alone." She looked at him, her silver eyes softening. "You're not like him," she said. "Varktal. He never smiled. You do." The message in fire. That night, a fire broke out in the old library wing of the palace. Guards rushed to put it out, but most of the scrolls were destroyed. Only one burned scroll was found, with the words, "He must die before the full moon, or the invasion begins." Darren stared at the message. The timing was clear. The full moon was 3 days away, and someone inside the palace, someone he might even care about, was planning to kill him. He had 3 wives. One was innocent. One was hiding. One was lying. He just didn't know who. The assassin among them. The palace felt colder. Even with golden lights glowing from crystal lamps and alien fireballs burning in the halls, the silence inside the palace was thick, like a fog of danger. The walls themselves seemed to whisper warnings. Darren sat alone in the royal strategy chamber, staring at the burned scroll found in the fire. He must die before the full moon, or the invasion begins. Only 3 nights remained. Someone was planning to kill him. But worse than that, someone close to him, maybe even someone he had begun to trust, was carrying Varktal's final command. He thought of Celira's fierce eyes, Nyali's mysterious touch, Torva's innocent tears. One of them was lying. The poisoned blade. That morning, during the royal breakfast, a servant ran into the dining hall, pale and shaking. "My lord," the servant gasped, "we found a hidden blade under your bed." Guards rushed to show it to Darren. A small curved dagger glowing faintly with green liquid on its edge. "Poison," said Vernus, examining it. "A single scratch would kill in seconds. The same venom Varktal used on his enemies." Darren stared at the blade, his jaw tight. He turned to the royal wives, who sat at the far end of the table. Celira stood up immediately. "Do you think I need a dagger to kill you? I would challenge you in the arena if I wanted your blood." Nyali said nothing. Her face was calm, too calm. Torva burst into tears. "I didn't do it. I didn't even go near your room. I swear." Darren ordered all of them to be escorted to separate rooms, not as prisoners, but for safety. But in truth, he didn't know who to believe anymore. Celira's truth. Later, Darren visited Celira in her chamber. She was sharpening a long metal rod, her hands steady and confident. "Still think I'm the killer?" she asked without turning. "I don't know what to think anymore," Darren replied. Celira put down the rod and looked at him. "You think I'm angry because you took the throne?" "No, I'm angry because you don't use it." Darren was surprised. "What do you mean?" "You act like a visitor, a guest, but Zithar follows strength. If you don't lead like a king, the shadows will devour you. One of those shadows tried to kill you." He frowned. "And you think it's one of the wives?" She leaned closer. "I know it's not me. As for the others, Torva is too soft. But Nayeli, she narrowed her eyes. That woman speaks to ghosts. Nayeli's hidden power. Nayeli's room was silent. She sat in meditation, legs crossed, eyes closed. Blue energy floated gently around her body. Darren entered quietly. I know you're here, she said without opening her eyes. You've been hiding things from me, he said. She opened her eyes slowly. Yes. He stepped forward. Are you working with the traitor? No, she answered. But I know who is. Darren froze. Who? She stood and walked to him. Her voice was soft. I saw their thoughts, their fear, their hate. But if I name them now, they will escape into the shadows. We need proof. Darren frowned. Then what do we do? Nayeli looked up at him. We set a trap. Torva's disappearance. But before they could act, another shock hit the palace. Torva was gone. Her chamber was empty. The guards posted at her door were knocked unconscious. No one saw anything. No one heard a thing. Panic filled the palace. She ran. One of the guards said, maybe she was guilty after all. Darren clenched his fists. No, she was afraid. Someone took her. In her room, he found something left behind. A small crystal pendant. It was cracked, glowing weakly. Vernus looked at it. This is a tracking crystal. Very rare. If we use it before the glow fades, we can follow where she was taken. Darren nodded. Then let's move. The cave beneath the garden. The crystal led them to the edge of the palace garden. Behind a wall of strange alien vines, they discovered a hidden door leading underground. They entered a long, dark tunnel. It smelled of damp stone and metal. Deep inside, they found a hidden chamber. And there, on the cold floor, lay Torva, unconscious and tied. A figure stood over her, robed in shadows. Darren stepped forward, sword drawn. Step away from her. The figure turned. It was a royal guard. Someone Darren had seen many times, someone trusted. I was loyal to Varktal, the man spat. You don't belong on this throne, human. I will finish what he started. He raised a blade, but before he could strike, Nayeli appeared behind him and placed her hand on his head. A burst of energy pulsed through the room. The guard screamed and fell to the floor, unconscious. Darren rushed to Torva, cutting her free. She woke slowly, her eyes full of fear. You came for me, she whispered. Darren smiled. Of course I did. But the war isn't over. The traitor had been found, but the scroll's warning still echoed in Darren's mind. He must die before the full moon, or the invasion begins. The guard had been working for someone. Another voice. Another leader. Maybe off-world. Darren looked up at the cave ceiling. He could feel something bigger coming. Celira was right. He had to start acting like a true leader. He couldn't run anymore. Because Zithar wasn't just his problem now. It was his world. The human's choice. The full moon of Zithar hung heavy in the sky, like a silent clock ticking toward fate. Its strange blue glow fell across the palace towers, casting long shadows down the halls. Darren stood on the highest balcony of the royal palace, staring at the stars. He could see Earth from here, just a tiny dot in the dark, but it reminded him of everything he had left behind. Below him, the people of Zithar prepared for the bonding ceremony, a sacred event that only happened when a ruler accepted their royal wives. But tonight, Darren wasn't sure if it would be a wedding or a war. Pressure from all sides. Vernus stood beside him, reading from a long scroll. My lord, as per tradition, you must choose one wife to be your first. The others will serve as companions and allies, but the first will rule beside you. Her tribe will rise. Her enemies will fall. Darren didn't answer. Vernus added quietly, if you delay, the elders will see it as weakness. They may remove you from the throne. Darren turned to him. And who will replace me? Varktal is dead. Vernus paused. The council may choose another, possibly Celira. Darren's eyes narrowed. This wasn't about love anymore. It was survival. Celira's challenge. Later, in the royal training hall, Darren found Celira practicing with her twin blades. Each swing was fast and sharp, like she was cutting through ghosts. "I heard you must choose your first," she said, not turning. Darren nodded. "And I suppose you think it should be you." She stopped and faced him. "I don't care about being your queen. I care about protecting Zithar. And you don't understand this world." "Then teach me," Darren said. Celira tossed him a practice sword. "Fight me." Darren sighed. "This again?" "No. This time, fight with your heart." They clashed, blades striking fast, sweat flying. But it wasn't just training. It was a conversation through motion. Her anger, her pride, her fear. In the final strike, she stopped her blade an inch from his throat. "You're not weak," she said softly. "But you must choose, or Zithar will bleed again." Nayeli's secret. That night, Darren sat with Nayeli in the crystal garden, where flowers sang in soft tones. "I feel like I'm choosing between pain and more pain," he said. Nayeli placed her hand on his. "What does your heart say?" He looked at her. "That I don't know any of you well enough. Not truly. But I trust you." Nayeli's glowing eyes flickered. "I have a confession," she said. "I am not full Zitharian. My mother was from another world. That's why my mind powers are unstable." Darren was shocked. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because if the council learns I'm mixed blood, they'll exile me, or worse." Darren stared at her. "So if I don't choose you as first, you'll be cast out." Nayeli nodded once, slowly. "I do not ask for your favor, only your fairness." Torva's plea. Torva met him the next morning in the sunroom, a place where light passed through colored glass, painting rainbows on the floor. She was quiet, her hands folded in her lap. "You don't have to choose me," she said. Darren turned, surprised. "Why not?" "Because I know I'm not ready to rule," she said softly. "I was given to this palace. I never asked for this." "But you've been kind," Darren replied. "Brave too." Torva smiled a little. "If you choose me, the other two may hate you. If you don't, I won't hate you. I just want peace. For myself. For everyone." Then she said something that stopped his heart. "But someone else in this palace doesn't want peace." Darren's expression changed. "What do you mean?" Torva hesitated. "I saw someone last night in the old wing. They were wearing council robes. They were speaking to a hologram. I heard Earth mentioned." "Who?" Darren asked. She shook her head. "I couldn't see the face." The council confrontation. Darren stormed into the council chamber with Furnace and the royal guards behind him. Elders sat in a circle, dressed in red and gold, staring down at him with alien calm. "I demand to know," Darren said, "who among you still works for Varktal's plans?" The room was silent. Then one elder, old and thin with pale skin, stood. "You are a foreigner," he said coldly. "You brought confusion, division. Our laws were never made for humans." Darren stepped forward. "Your laws also didn't expect your own people to betray you." He held up the recorded message from the Poison Blade incident and played it for all to hear. Varktal's voice echoed again. "He must die before the full moon." Whispers filled the chamber. Then the old elder smiled. "You are too late." A sudden attack. Explosions shook the palace. Lights went dark. Crystals cracked. Screams echoed from the halls. Guards rushed in. "The outer gate is under attack. Unknown ships are landing." Darren grabbed his sword. "It's happening now." Celira appeared beside him in full armor. "Let me fight with you." Neela came next, glowing with blue energy. "And me." Torva arrived last, holding a small crystal shield. "I'm scared, but I won't hide." They stood side by side. 3 women, 3 possible futures, and 1 human with everything on the line. The choice begins. The people gathered in the grand hall as the attack was pushed back. The enemy had failed to enter the heart of the palace, but the damage was done. Now all eyes turned to Darren. Vernus stepped forward. "It is time. You must choose your first." Darren looked at each woman. Celira, fierce and proud. Nayeli, wise and quiet. Torva, gentle and kind. But before he could speak, a shadow moved in the crowd. A figure in council robes stepped forward, raising a hidden blade. Nayeli screamed, "Darren!" But Darren had already moved. He caught the attacker's wrist and threw him down. Guards rushed in. The traitor was one of the council elders, and with that final reveal, Darren turned to the people. "I will make my choice," he said, "but not based on tradition. I will choose who stood beside me in the storm, who didn't wait to be saved, but helped me save this world." The alien trial. The great dome of Zithar echoed with whispers. Thousands of aliens from every tribe gathered under the glowing crystal ceiling. Elders sat in high seats, watching with cold, curious eyes. The council chamber had been turned into a courtroom, where one human, Darren, stood before a planet still unsure whether to love him or hate him. In front of him stood the 3 alien women, Celira, Nayeli, and Torva, each with their own story, their own secrets, and now, their own reasons to stay or leave. But this was more than a trial of truth. It was a trial of the heart. The council's demands. Elder Zorek, now the acting leader of the council after the traitor's arrest, stood and raised his voice. By law, the throne must be secured. The new king must choose his first. Only she will have the right to stand beside him in leadership and war. He paused. "If the decision is not made today, the throne shall be taken by the council, and the human shall be exiled or executed." Gasps filled the dome. The words were cruel, but legal. Darren stepped forward. "Then let this trial begin. Let the truth be seen." Celira testifies. Celira stood proud, her golden eyes sharp. She wore a robe of deep red, a color of war and royalty. "I hated Varktal," she began, "but I played my role. Because if I resisted, my people would suffer." She looked at the crowd. "I never loved him, but I fought for Zithar. I still will." She turned to Darren. "You are not weak, even if you act like you are. I could help you become stronger. I could lead beside you, but I will never bow." There was no emotion in her voice, but behind her eyes, a fire burned. Darren nodded slowly. "Thank you, Celira." Nayeli testifies. Nayeli stepped forward next, her green robes flowing like water. Her hands glowed softly with energy. "I see what others do not," she said, her voice calm. "I see minds. I feel hearts. I read pain." She looked directly at Darren. "When you first arrived, I thought you were just another outsider. But then, you listened. You cared." She turned to the crowd. "I am not full Zitharian. I have been told I do not belong. But in him, I found belonging." Gasps filled the crowd again. A half-blood claiming the throne. It was unheard of. Darren stepped closer to her. "You never tried to impress me. You just told the truth. That's rare." She smiled gently, but her eyes shined with unshed tears. Torva testifies. Torva came forward last. She looked small, even in her glowing silver robe. Her voice trembled. "I didn't want to be here. I was taken from my home. I was told I must marry or my tribe would lose their protection." She looked at Darren. "You were the first one who didn't treat me like property." She turned to the crowd. "I'm not a warrior. I'm not wise, but I've seen enough fear to last a lifetime. And I want peace, not just for me, but for all of us." A quiet wave passed through the audience. Some wiped their eyes. Others looked away. Darren's chest tightened. These were not just candidates. They were people. The people's reaction. Elder Jorek stood again. You've heard their words. Now, by law, choose your first. Darren looked at the crowd, then at the three women. He walked past them, one by one. Celira, strong, fierce, a shield for her people. Nayeli, calm, powerful, and wise. Torva, gentle, innocent, and brave in her own way. He stopped in the center of the hall. I won't choose just one, he said. A loud gasp spread like thunder. Jorek shouted, That is not allowed. Darren turned to him. It is now. I may be human, but I am king. If Zithar must grow, its heart must grow too. I will not treat love like a war prize. They all stood beside me. They all deserve honor. Jorek's face darkened. Then you defy the law. I changed the law, Darren said, because I believe in something stronger than fear. I believe in unity. A twist in the trial. Suddenly, a bright flash of light burst from the back of the chamber. A large projection filled the air, a secret recording from the day of the attempted assassination. It showed Elder Jorek in a hidden chamber, speaking with the captured traitor. If he refuses to pick a first wife, force his hand. Make the people turn on him. Then we take the throne. The chamber went silent. Jorek's face turned pale. Guards rushed forward and seized him. Now the real traitor had been fully revealed. The council breaks tradition. With Jorek exposed, the remaining council members stood in silence. Finally, Elder Varel, the oldest and most respected, raised her hand. Let it be known, she said, that today the law has changed. By strength, by heart, and by truth. Darren is now our true ruler. The crowd erupted in thunderous cheers. Darren turned to Celira, Nayeli, and Torva. You were never mine to win, he said. You chose to stand beside me. Now, I choose to stand beside you. All three women smiled, for the first time, without fear. But peace has a price. As the dome quieted and celebrations began, a message arrived from deep space. A transmission. A voice crackled through the royal speakers. To the human king of Zithar, you may have stopped one invasion, but the true enemy is coming, and they know your name. Darren stared at the screen. He wasn't done. The trial had ended, but the war had just begun. Love, war, and a new beginning. The celebration had barely begun when the sky turned dark. High above Zithar, massive alien ships appeared, black and silent like shadows swallowing the stars. They didn't speak, didn't threaten. They simply waited. Darren stood on the palace tower, eyes locked on the ships. Celira stood beside him in full battle armor. Nayeli, glowing with quiet energy, stood at his left. And Torva, hands trembling but face brave, stood at his right. Vernus ran up with a crystal scroll, pale and shaking. My lord, we've identified them. The ships belonged to the Dralkith Empire. They were allies of Varktal. Now they demand your surrender, or they will destroy Zithar. Darren's voice was calm. Then we fight. Preparing for war. The city went into lockdown. War drums echoed through the crystal walls. Tribal leaders gathered from the mountains, deserts, and oceans of Zithar. They came not because of tradition, but because they believed in Darren. In just a few weeks, he had changed everything. Celira took command of the ground forces. She trained soldiers day and night, her voice sharp and clear. Hold the line. Fight with honor. Let them fear us. Nayeli worked with the scholars and mindbinders, building a psychic barrier to protect the palace from energy blasts. Calm your minds. We must be one in thought, or we fall. Torva went to the villages, helping the frightened. She gave food, comfort, and words of peace. People began calling her the Silver Flame. Darren moved among them all, not as a ruler above, but as one of them. The first attack. The sky lit up with fire as the Dralkith launched their first wave. Bombs fell like stars. Zitharian ships met them in the air, blasting back. Fighters soared across the sky, clashing in flashes of blue and red. Selira led the front line, her armor scratched, her blade red. At one point, a Dralkith warrior nearly pierced her heart, but Darren arrived just in time, tackling the enemy. "You should be ruling from a safe room," she shouted. "I'll rule from wherever my people bleed," he said, panting. She grinned. "Now you sound like a king." Nayali's sacrifice. As the battle grew worse, a giant energy beam hit the palace. The psychic shield cracked. Nayali ran to the Mindbinder circle and joined hands with the others. "There is one way to hold the barrier," she said. "I will link with the heart crystal." "That's too dangerous," Vernus cried. "You could lose your mind." Nayali looked at Darren across the room. "If I don't, we all die." She smiled softly and placed her hand on the glowing heart crystal. Light burst from her body, reaching the skies. The shield held, but Nayali collapsed. Inside the enemy ship, Torva had a secret. She had once studied the Dralkith language when she was young, before being taken by the palace. Now she offered a plan. "Let me sneak aboard their lid ship. I can speak to them. Maybe stop the war from inside." Darren refused at first, but Torva begged. "Let me try. I'm not a fighter, but I have courage now, because of you." Darren kissed her forehead and whispered, "Come back to me." With the help of a stealth glider, Torva boarded the ship. There, she found the Dralkith leader, an ancient, angry warlord named Krulzen. "I am one of the king's wives," she said. "He brought peace to Zithar. We offer alliance, not war." Krulzen laughed. "You are soft, just like your king." Torva stepped forward. "Maybe. But softness saved us. Love united us. And fear will never rule us again." Krulzen raised a weapon to strike her, but just then, an incoming signal flashed. One of his ships had been destroyed by Selira's forces. Darren's voice rang through the enemy communication line. "You attacked a peaceful world. We stood. We fought. Now you decide. Leave in peace or die in pride." Krulzen hesitated. Then, to everyone's shock, he ordered his ships to retreat. The aftermath. The war ended not in fire, but in silence. Zithar survived. Its people rose stronger than before. The palace became a place of peace, not fear. Nayali awoke days later, weak but smiling. "I saw stars," she whispered to Darren. "So many stars." Darren held her hand. "You're one of them now." Selira took her rightful place as commander of the Royal Guard. Her respect for Darren became something deeper, quiet, powerful. Torva returned to the people, now known across the land as the voice of peace. And Darren, he became more than a human king. He became Zithar's hope. A new beginning. On the first day of the twin suns' alignment, a grand ceremony was held. Darren stood before the people. Behind him were Selira, Nayali, and Torva, no longer bound to him by law, but by choice. "I came here by accident," he told the crowd. "I fought to survive. I ruled by chance. But I stayed because of you, because of them." He looked at his 3 wives. "Each one taught me something. Strength, wisdom, kindness. And I realized, love doesn't come from victory. It comes from standing together." The crowd roared. Final twist. A message from Earth. As the celebration ended, a message arrived from Earth. It was from the Human Defense Council. "We received your signal. We now know you're alive. And you are not alone. Earth requests a meeting." Darren smiled. "Tell them, Zithar is ready." He looked up at the stars once more, hand in hand with the women who had once been strangers, now his partners in ruling a world and guarding the peace.